So let's jump right in. Your mindset around money is going to impact everything that you do with money from here on in your life. Your mindset around money is going to make your decisions for you. You are going to make those decisions, but the way you think about money and the way you feel about what money is and the impact that it has is going to impact what your money goes to from here on out. And so let's talk about if you have gratitude, if you are grateful for the things that you have and where you are, how does that impact you financially? How does that impact your financial life? And so the first thing that I want to talk about is it actually makes you more patient with your financial decisions. And there is science to back this up. From an article in the Journal of Psychological Science, they find that when you are more grateful, when you display more gratitude, you tend to combat the need for instant gratification. And so they did a study and found that they wanted to see if individuals would take $80 in 30 days or $54 today. The ones who displayed higher feelings of gratitude had a higher propensity towards delaying the gratification and receiving the $80 in 30 days instead of the $54 today, which says a lot because this tells us a few things, right? This tells us that we are willing to put money away for the future if we are grateful, if we have that attitude of gratitude, then we're willing to put money off to the future, because this is really no different than making an investment decision, right? If you're investing for the long term, if you have that long-term viewpoint for investing, then what you're doing is you are delaying your gratification. You're saying, well, instead of having this money today, I'd rather have more money tomorrow. And that's on a much larger scale than 80 versus $54. But it is still the same question. It is, do you want money today or do you want more money tomorrow? And being grateful for what you have pushes you towards the latter. It pushes you towards having more money tomorrow. And in a similar way, that same mindset can keep you from making impulse purchases, and it can have you be more patient in the purchases that you make. 54% of Americans say that they've spent at least $100 or more on impulse purchases. And that is a pretty substantial number, and it can break a budget in a month if you let it. And so this is substantial. Having this patience that comes from gratitude, it has a huge impact on your financial life, and it impacts how you save and how you spend. And naturally, and we'll see this later, it will change the way you give as well. And those are our three pieces of financial balance. And so if it is impacting our financial balance, we need to understand it, and we need to understand how changing the way that we view the world and we view money can be very, very, it can be helpful to us or it can be detrimental to us, depending on the way that we go. So then, like I just said, naturally, there was a study done at UC Berkeley that stated if you are displaying more feelings of gratitude and you're more grateful for what you have in your own life, then you actually give more to others. You're actually more generous to other people. And this is no surprise because naturally, if you feel like you have enough and you are content where you are and you're grateful for what you have and where you are, then naturally you would feel this leaning towards helping other people out because you feel like, hey, I have what I need. Why don't I help others to get what they need? And this is no surprise, obviously, but it is that third piece of that financial balance stool that we've talked about previously. And so being grateful helps us to hold up all three areas of that stool. It helps us not to overspend. It helps us to be more patient with our saving and investing. And it also helps us to give. And so that's why this is so important. That's why this is not just something that I'm doing just for the week of Thanksgiving. It's because it actually matters. This attitude of gratitude really impacts your life in a substantial way. And then let us also not forget, and this is a topic that I covered a while back, but it has been a cornerstone of everything I've talked about since then, and that is this idea of contentment. And being grateful for what you have, it actually helps to breed contentment in your life. It helps to cultivate that feeling of contentment and that feeling of being, grateful for where you are. I mean, it's a little bit of synonymous definitions between contentment and gratitude. But nonetheless, this feeling of contentment, as we've talked about previously, is so huge in getting us to where we want to go because it has profound effects on what we choose to do. It impacts our spending decisions. Do you want to go about trying to keep up with the Joneses because you don't feel like you have enough, you don't feel like what you have is good enough, you're not thankful for what you do have, you'd rather have what other people have, you have those feelings of envy and jealousy that can creep into your life. And so if those things can be combated by this attitude of gratitude, I think it is definitely worth stating, and it's definitely worth putting a second thought into. And I know it can be extremely difficult, especially in this culture that we're in, because our culture is extremely discontented. Our culture is never happy with anything, and you know this. You go on social media, you watch the news, you do whatever. We're never happy. Whatever outcome occurs, nobody has ever looked around and go, oh, everybody's pretty happy. Everybody is glad that happened. No, there's always contenders. There's always people who aren't happy with the way things went. There's always people who are going to gripe and complain no matter what occurs. And given that is the case, and we see the type of profound impacts that type of attitude can have on a culture as a whole, what do you think the impact of that type of attitude is going to be in just your life? Obviously, it is going to impact you greatly. And so having this attitude of gratitude is going to push you towards more and more contentment. It's going to push you towards being thankful, being grateful, being glad that you have what you do, being okay where you are, and not being jealous of others, not being envious of others, but being glad that you are where you are. And even if, and we've talked about this before, even if that place where you are is not where you want to be, you can still be content in that place. You can still be grateful for the work. You can be grateful for pushing out of that place that is not a great place. And it's a hard thing to do. It's hard to have that positive mindset when things are exceedingly negative, but having it can change the way that you look at your finances forever. It can change the way that you look at your life forever. And just point blank, people who are content, people who have these attributes that show that they are content and they are grateful, they're just more successful. They are better off, and financially, it's not even close. So if you're grateful for what you have financially, you're going to be far less likely to go out and try to make the quick buck and try to do the get rich quick thing and end up getting burned. If you're grateful for what you have financially, you're going to make good, prudent decisions, typically based on information that you found and historical evidence that you found. And you'll make those decisions and you'll stick with it over the long run. Because as we talked about, patience comes from gratitude as well. And so as we push forward, we'll be patient with our money. And you just see how all these things end up lining up into a successful financial life. And another thing that can prove that gratitude is breeding contentment is that there have been studies done that have looked at income and your emotional well-being. And they've shown that once you hit that $75,000 a year salary mark, once you pass that, emotional well-being does not increase substantially along the scale of income. It does not have a positive correlation with income or a significant correlation with income any longer. And what do we think the reason for that is? It's because people are discontent. People who are continuing to make more and more money, it is not going to change how they feel about their life. It's not going to change their level of contentment. It's only going to breed more of what they already are, not more contentment, not more, of being grateful and being thankful for what you have. It's going to breed more discontentment, more jealousy, more envy, and all of these things that we don't want sitting around in our financial lives.